Good morning, everybody. Welcome in to the Point. Hope you're doing well. On this Thursday, we have a lot to dive into today, including the start of the conference finals in the NHL and the NBA. We'll talk about that. We got some coaching hires. We had a trade in the National Hockey League over the last couple of days, which you rarely see in May, but should happen more often. And we'll get into that deal. We're also going to talk about Major League Baseball, a little roundup, things happening. I have a theory to watch on with the Blue Jays, what they're doing. They are to me, one of the most boring teams to watch in all of baseball. But I think they're going to be playing well for the next little while, and I'll tell you why and why there could be some optimism for the Jays moving forward. Also want to talk about the Dodgers, what they're doing, the Phillies, who are on an incredible run as of late. So all of that is forthcoming. But let's start the show talking about the Florida Panthers getting it done on the road last night at Madison Square Garden, winning the game 3-0. And it was close throughout because goaltending, both sides, Bobrovsky, Shesterkin, both very sharp. Two of the best goalies in the world. Two Vezina Trophy winners. But if you watch the game in entirety, if you weren't just looking at the box score this morning, Florida was by far the better team. Florida controlled the pace. Florida controlled the tempo of the game. Florida got to implement their physical style. Guys like Matthew Tkachuk, who I thought was the best player on the ice. Sam Bennett. Their defense, Nico Mikkola. I thought the Rangers had a hard night at the office. They really made them work for it. Trocheck took a number of big hits. He's tough. He kept playing. You saw moments where they fought back. Trouba gave a shot to Sam Reinhart. But I never thought Florida was going to lose. Even with a 1-0 lead, and with about 7 minutes left, the Rangers really started to push. They were getting better opportunities because I thought for the first 40-plus minutes of the game, they were chasing the game. They were trying to find it. They were trying to get a footing to put themselves in a position to compete with the Florida Panthers. And they did a decent job of it. But ultimately, the Panthers did more. The Panthers controlled the game. They get an insurance goal from Carter Verhaeghe late in the contest. That was kind of an own goal. And they come out on top. For the Panthers, they are happy to play low-scoring, physical games where they rely on their goaltender to make the saves that he has to make, but also playing really good defense in front of him. Because every team's going to get good opportunities. It's the NHL. You can only play such good, so many great defensive systems. But can you play 2-1 hockey if you have to? And for the Panthers, that's an unequivocal yes. They do it effortlessly. They did it last year, getting all the way to the Stanley Cup final as an 8 seed. They battle for position. They know what they're doing. They're a smart hockey team. And yeah, they can create scoring opportunity. I thought the second line of Anton Lundell, Carter Verhaeghe, and Matthew Tkachuk was the best line of either team. Seemed every time that line was on the ice for Florida, they were creating scoring opportunities. They were dangerous. It was a decision for Paul Maurice, new series, to put Sam Bennett on the third line as a third-line center. I thought it worked, personally. Lundell is kind of a jack of all trades. you have a Kachuk and a Verhage who are defensively responsible, but are going to take more risks because they are offensive players, because they like to score goals. That's what they do. And Lundell can contribute, but his makeup is of a defensive player. Came into the NHL, you get drafted, you're a first round pick, but you realize you get somewhere and go, okay, I have to be aware of what I'm doing here. I have to be centered. I'm not Mr. 25 goals in the NHL, but I can have a long NHL career being defensively responsible, winning faceoffs, and covering for my teammates. And I think he does an excellent job of that. And it allows Sam Bennett to play on a third line with Luosterainen that is really physical, hard to play against, keeps you in your own zone. You don't like to have them on the ice with you because they're a pain in the ass. And I thought it worked for the most part last night for the Florida Panthers. So I think if you're Paul Maurice, you really have no complaints. There was a goal that was called off, and that was actually a correct decision by the Situation Room. That was goal interference. And I hate officiating, and I hate the way they do their business as much as anybody. But in this case, they were correct, so I have nothing to complain about. I wish I did, because I love to complain about them. But ultimately, they did what they had to do. They were smart, and they played their game. They took 2 penalties. The Rangers took 3, and I said going in, the biggest X factor for the Rangers, because I don't think the Rangers are better than the Florida Panthers 5-on-5. It's hard to argue that any team is better than the Florida Panthers 5-on-5 in the entire NHL. But the Rangers' X factors, if they get on the power play, they can score goals, they can create. And honestly, both power plays last night for both teams were not very good. They did not create a whole lot. Didn't get great chances. A lot of one pass, try to get into the middle, lose the puck down the ice. 0 for 3 for the Panthers, 0 for 2 for the Rangers. But don't take stupid penalties. Don't engage in any nonsense with the Rangers. Keep yourself composed. Shut up the people of the Mecca and handle your business. For the Rangers, I don't think they did a great job establishing anything. Florida was controlling the game, and I never saw a point in the second period, third period, where they tried to adjust. The one play that they had, the one thing that they did, was they established the stretch pass, and it worked about 2 to 3 times, and it created opportunities. But I've made this point forever. Relying on the stretch pass, relying on cheating to work over and over again is a stupid strategy, in my opinion, because it's not easy to break out. It's not going to work every time. Eventually, the opposing team's going to react to it and go, they're a one-trick pony. That's the only way that they can establish anything. Take that away, and they're done. So, going into Game 2 for the New York Rangers, they have to find a better way of getting pucks out of their zone effectively. Be in those key areas. Be willing to go in the corners. Be willing to take hits to make a play. I look at Zibanejad. I look at Panarin. Lafreniere. Really good players. Dynamic players. But I've never seen them fully commit in that way to winning. And I think if you're going to win, you need the entire team to be willing to do what the fourth line or what the sixth defenseman is going to do to win a game. And I think Florida has more of those guys than the Rangers do. And ultimately, that hurts them. Now, I don't expect this to be a sweep. I expect the Rangers to have a response in Game 2, to play hard, to come out with energy. But if the Rangers are going to win this series, I think they know this. It has to be more run and gun. It has to be more up tempo. Trade opportunities, and Florida knows that. They don't want to play the game of trading opportunities because the Rangers have a whole lot of dynamic players that can make things happen. Not to mention, I thought Adam Fox was really quiet last night. Didn't have an impact on the game. Didn't notice him. He's one of the better players for the New York Rangers. He's their top defenseman. But the Rangers, you look at Florida. Montour is going to jump into the play. He's going to create opportunities, create offense, and he's a buzzsaw in that area. Other than him, Ekblad will, but oftentimes I find his teammates rarely want to engage with him in that area of the game because they'd rather him just hang back and play defense. Because if you ask Aaron Ekblad to do too much, that can be problematic. So other than Montour, Forsling's very defensively responsible. He knows his role. He got an assist on the Tkachuk goal last night. But 9 times out of 10, he's going to take the Jacob Slavin approach and be dialed in. The rest of their defensemen, Ekman-Larsson, used to be that guy, but he knows who he is now in the Panthers in his latter stages of his career. So they got one guy. I look at the Rangers, Keandre Miller, Adam Fox, Braden Schneider. They have a lot of guys who have speed, who like to jump into the play and help create opportunities for the offense up front. They need that more. Easier breakouts out of the zone. Getting speed so you don't have to cheat in the neutral zone and bank on the stretch pass bailing you out when the rest of your game is in shambles. The Rangers didn't bring their best effort. But I would say this, I thought Florida stuck to their game plan, but Florida can play better as well. So I think if you're the Florida Panthers, you go, we won a game on the road where we probably gave a B-plus effort. So we give our A-plus, we can beat this team again. No doubt about it. Not to mention you got nothing from the Sam Reinhart line with Barkov. Nothing from Tarasenko. It was the Tkachuk line, and Sam Bennett got an empty net goal. Both these teams were coming off, decent-sized layoffs. We're waiting for the Western side of things to wrap up. Both teams were a little sleepy, a little bit behind the puck. But I expect this to be a competitive series. I expect both of these teams to play hard, to be engaged. Matthew Tkachuk with another game-winning goal. That's what he seems to do in the conference final. He had 3 last year. Add a 4 to that resume last night with the opening goal of the game. And as I said off the top, I thought he was the best player on the ice. I thought he was awesome. All around it, engaged from the drop of the puck, created opportunities, made things happen. That's Matthew Tkachuk when he's everywhere. He's hitting people. He's scoring a goal. He's mixing it up in a scrum. blocking a shot. That's just the way he does it. So I expect a response from the Rangers in game 2. If they don't get a split, they're in trouble because you're not playing bad teams anymore. And this is the first time this postseason that the Rangers do not have a lead in a series. They have never trailed in a series prior to this. Swept the Washington Capitals, had a 3-0 lead on the Hurricanes till they made their minor comeback. So really, you could make the argument they're facing adversity for the first time. You drop game 1. You give away home ice advantage. I think this is a character moment for that group. I've had my doubts from the beginning, and I don't have doubts about the Panthers. And I was asked this by a friend last night. Who'd you watch the most this year? And he thought I'd say Toronto, and that wasn't the correct. I watched a lot of Toronto games, but I don't go out of my way to watch Toronto because you got to watch Toronto. If they're playing San Jose on a Monday, I'm not watching the game because I don't care. And if I miss a Mitch Marner 3-point night, oh, so be it. I'll live. I like to watch teams that interest me. The 3 teams I think I watched the most this year, 2 of them are still playing. Florida's one of them because I love the way they play and just the intensity they play with night after night. Paul Maurice brings that out of them. So Florida would be right at the top. Edmonton, I think, would be number 1 because you get to watch the best player in the world in Connor McDavid. You get to watch Leon Draisaitl. Watching their power play alone on a nightly basis, is a meal ticket. It's awesome. And my third was Colorado, who are out now. And I bring that up to say, I know this Florida team well because I watched them a ton. And when you make predictions, I look at my predictions and when I go for Stanley Cup Finals, things like that, I redo them when the playoffs start or after the trade deadline because I want to see the team. I want to see how they gel together. Florida didn't make many changes. They added Tarasenko, I don't particularly like, but he's a bit piece in the larger whole of the puzzle. And Florida's been doing it the same way for a couple years now. And they keep everybody to a standard, and that standard is winning. To go to a Stanley Cup final, then to get back to a conference final in back-to-back years is incredibly difficult. And to have that focus, Vegas won the Stanley Cup. They couldn't get past the first round. Putting it that way. The Pittsburgh Penguins winning back-to-back. That's not easy. No matter how good your team is and you have Sidney Crosby, you need everybody dialed in. You need health to go your way. You need a lot of breaks. And Florida has actually been more healthy this year than they were last year when it comes to just having players available. So that bodes well for them. Chris Kreider's the heartbeat of the Rangers. Panarin might be viewed as the best player. I like Fox. But Panarin might be viewed as the best player by some. And you also got Zibanejad, who's a solid pro. And you got some talent on that team. We saw in Game 6 who it had to be. It had to be Kreider. The 33-year-old kind of workhorse winger who's not an elite talent. All that being said, doesn't have to be the best player sometimes. It can be the heart and soul. I think Kreider will play better in game 2. He wasn't great in game 1. Kind of a no-show. I didn't notice him as much. Rangers got to start a scrum early. They need to be engaged from the drop of the puck. Florida can put you into a malaise where you don't even realize that you're playing the style of game that they want you to play, and before you know it, you can't change it and it's over. And I think the Rangers kind of fell into that hex last night. Curious to see how this progresses. But it was an entertaining game 1. The Panthers take it. Game 2, Friday night in the Mecca. Stars-Oilers, game 1 tonight. 9:30 puck drop in Dallas, Texas. Some lineup news and notes. Roope Hintz, it doesn't sound like he's going to be available tonight, which is big news for the Dallas Stars. Also, Adam Henrique sounds like he should return in this series for the Oilers. It doesn't sound like it's going to be tonight. So 2 players that could be important down the line. Hintz more important than Henrique. But 2 players that mean a lot to their respective teams. I think it'll be an entertaining series. This one's harder to predict for me because I have such respect for Dallas and how they play, and Peter DeBoer as a coach and their mentality, and guys like Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, who have been there, done that, little Joe Pavelski. They play themselves to a certain standard as well. And, you know, Edmonton has more game breakers. They have more ways that they can beat you, but that doesn't mean they're going to win. And Stuart Skinner worries the hell out of me. But if the Oilers are defending like they did in game 6 and 7 against the Vancouver Canucks, then I think they can fight it off. Game 1s are always important. But I think for the Edmonton Oilers, you lose game 1 to Vancouver, you win the series. And you had to come back the next game, you find a way to win it, right? I don't think you want to go down against Dallas and play that game of pick me up and try to find it, because Dallas is better than Vancouver. Vancouver had a great season. Rick Tocchet won the Jack Adams Award for Coach of the Year yesterday. And, I thought Peter Laviolette should have won the award because he was on the coach of the best team. But again, people don't seem to agree with that stance, which is stupid to me, but nevertheless. They had a great season. But they had a third-string goalie, and Elias Pettersson was out to lunch for like 10 of the 13 playoff games that they played. And they overcame a lot of obstacles and had a fantastic season. But Dallas is better. I don't think Dallas will fall into those into those potholes. Dallas missing Roope Hintz. But they got a Logan Stankoven. They got a Wyatt Johnson. They have guys that come into the lineup and can have an impact, even extremely young, into their respective careers. Past 2 years, Lose to Colorado in the conference final. Colorado wins the cup. Play Vegas in the second round. Vegas wins the cup. Edmonton's been close. They lose to the eventual champion, which back in the day when I was playing sports, my mom used to always tell me after I would lose in a tournament, oh, well, at least they won. You knew you lost the eventual winner. And I think she was saying that and she admitted this after the fact later on in life. She was saying that to make me feel better. She was saying that so I wasn't so upset after losing because I'm competitive and I don't like to lose. But I don't think Edmonton can sit there and nobody's making that rah-rah speech in Oilers Nation, in the City of Champions. Oh, well, we lost the eventual champion. If they weren't around, we would have won. Well, they are around. You didn't win. You need to find a way to overcome that and become what they are, the champions. The head of the table, the tribal chief. That's what needs to happen. This team is pretty good. Bouchard has taken his game to another level. And while in his own zone, I still would strangle him at times. And watching a lot of the Oilers this year, there's games that if I was the head coach, I would have lost it on Evan Bouchard. But the man's shot and the man's offensive prowess cannot be understated. Not to mention you have Connor McDavid, you have Leon Draisaitl, who might be the best playoff performer in the sport. Zach Hyman, who leads the Stanley Cup playoffs with 11 goals after 2 rounds. Evander Kane, who mercurial, can make stupid decisions, but he's a gamer, and he's edgy, and he plays for keeps. I like him. Nugent Hopkins, solid player. A number 1 overall pick that's had a really good career and stuck around in Edmonton, and as the juice has been worth the squeeze. I'm going to figure out this series. Going into tonight, I don't really have a feel. Ottinger can steal any game because he's that good. But Edmonton is faster than Dallas. Edmonton is more skilled than Dallas. And if Dallas starts to reach, if Dallas starts to cheat a little bit, and they start taking penalties, that's when the series can shift. Because the Oilers' power play is like playing Madden on easy. You can be any quarterback. You could be the shittiest quarterback on the game. Put yourself in as Tim Tebow, and you could throw the ball down the field like a Bible to any wide receiver, and it's not going to get picked off. It's not going to knock down. It's not going to get intercepted. It's going to be complete. It's likely going for a TD. But that's what their power play is like. As good a penalty kill as they might have, as any team might have, eventually they are going to wear you down. And while the officials have been pretty good in the playoffs so far, other than video review when they're always shitty and terrible, you got to look around, figure out the game plan, and go with it. Dallas has to make the game mucky, keep the puck in front of them, don't chase. Getting caught on long shifts could be problematic. And I think for Dallas, the key for them, Heiskanen, Harley, Lindell, they have a lot of mobile defensemen who can help on breakouts and who can help making life easier. Draisaitl's coming at you. McDavid's coming at you 100 miles an hour. Hyman, we went through the players. And Jamie Benn's slower than all those guys. Tyler Seguin is slower than those guys. Matt Duchene, while still a good player, pretty slow at this stage of his career. Heiskanen isn't. Heiskanen's a jet engine. Heiskanen is He's one of the best players in the world. Make life easier on your forwards and see what you can do to create. It's a team mentality for Dallas more than it is Edmonton. Because yes, it's you need the team to win. Game 7, Cody Ceci scores a goal. Nugent Hopkins scores a goal. Bouchard scores a goal. But those last two names are two of the best players on the Oilers. Dallas, there's going to be games where Sam Steele might score a goal. And Ryan Suter might score. And Jamie, you're going to go all four lines and have to find production. And they get it. And that's why they're so great, because they've constructed a team, four lines full of youth, like Stankoven, Wyatt Johnson, J-Rob. And then you have your veterans, Sagan, Ben, Little Joe. And it's a really nice mix of talent. Can't wait to watch that game tonight. 9:30 puck drop. I got the Oilers winning tonight in Dallas, taking the game on the road like the Panthers did last night. But I have less of a feel about this series. I got Oilers in 7. But as I said on Tuesday, going into this series, Dallas is playing better, and Dallas is the better team. If Edmonton plays to the level they did against LA and against the Vancouver Canucks, they will lose. And it might not be that close of a series because they were playing down to their competition. You can't do that to Dallas because they'll kick your ass. But should be fun to watch how each team approaches this series. Other NHL news: the New Jersey Devils, one of the best job openings in the sport during this process, is now finished, no longer available. New Jersey Devils hired Sheldon Keefe to become the 31st, but that's way too many. It must have been for another team I read that. Become the team's next head coach. I could be right about that, but I don't know. Come the next head coach in New Jersey Devils history to a 4-year contract. They ripped up the last 2 years of the Toronto deal. He gets a raise, reportedly, and he gets to go to New Jersey for 4 years. First on Sheldon Keefe. You leave Toronto, you go to Jersey. Smart. If I was him, unless it's crazy money, I probably would have said no to Seattle. I would have said no to Los Angeles. I would have said no to San Jose for sure and waited for a better opportunity. New Jersey makes all the sense in the world, in particular if he got a stamp of approval that they are going to get a goaltender this offseason. Whether that's Saros, whether that's Markstrom, whether that's Spencer Knight, Linus Ullmark from the Boston Bruins. If there's confidence, if he feels good with Tom Fitzgerald and the crew that they have in New Jersey, that they're going to get a goaltender, this is the perfect job to take because I love their team. Jack Hughes, Dougie Hamilton, Luke Hughes, Simon Nemec, who I think is only going to get better, Timu Meyer, Andre Palat, Dawson Mercer, Nico Hischier. They're a deep team. They just haven't had any goaltending the last 2 years. If they had goaltending a year ago in the second round against Carolina, they might have won that series. But they had Boo Boo the Fool in net who couldn't make a save. This year, they go through the offseason. I remember saying this, what the hell are they doing? You're running it back with Akira Schmid and Vitek Vanacek. You reap what you sow. You throw shit at the wall, it's going to stink. And that's what they've done. They had nobody. They need a goalie. They're a goalie away from being a competitive team in a metropolitan division that isn't very good. The Rangers are a good team, but they're getting older by the day. And I think they'll be competitive again next year. But a lot of their best players are getting older, and they have their pitfalls. Islanders always a playoff team, but are they really that threatening? If the Devils get a goalie, the Devils are better than the Islanders, point blank, and the period. Hurricanes have 8 UFAs. Marty Neckash wants traded out of town. His dad is complaining in Czech media about the way he was utilized, the fact that he wasn't on the first power play. So there's trouble in paradise between Marty Neckash and Rob Brendamore. So there's that to look at. So that's a problem. So Carolina will be good, but they've had a number of years to go on runs and try to win. And when you have a number of years of being competitive, it's hard to maintain that. We'll see. I have faith in them. But again, that Pittsburgh stinks. Washington stinks. Columbus stinks. So I think it's the easiest pardon me. I think it's the easiest division in hockey to compete. Pacific's pretty bad too, but the Metro's got some bad teams. And with their talent level, they're not far off. Get them a goal. Get them some competence in between the pipes. Not confidence, some competence in between the pipes, and they can beat anybody. But if you're Sheldon Keefe, you leave a job in Toronto where you have a lot of elite talent. You go to New Jersey where you have a lot of elite talent. Makes all the sense in the world. You get a raise, you get a 4-year contract. Even if this is your last job, if you know what you're doing financially, if you're not Antonio Brown of finances, you should be in good shape. For New Jersey, I kind of made this point. I don't think there's that many great coaches available. St. Louis keeps Drew Bannister, who's an interim coach. Todd McClellan's out there, but he's had 1,000 jobs and he hasn't won. So why would you hire him again? Joel Quenneville, they won't let him coach. I don't get it. I'll never get it. But I guess that's a mandate of the league. Joel Quenneville is not going to be included, so Joel can't pass go. He doesn't get a look from anybody. So if you can't hire Joel, and Babs is persona non grata as well after the weird Columbus situation, and you have other teams as well who are kind of in this situation. Peter DeBoer is not available. Mike Sullivan was not fired from the Pittsburgh Penguins. John Cooper is available. He'd be scooped up quick. He's not leaving Tampa Bay. There's only so many good coaches available, and I think Sheldon Keefe's as good a coach as anybody. I think his systems are fine. I'm curious to see now in New Jersey. The Maple Leafs played a lot of possession hockey. Power play, reverse, keep the puck. Don't dare dump it in. You can't lose possession. Was that a Sheldon Keefe idea or was that an organizational idea? Because you got to learn from your mistakes. He coached there a long time. He won one playoff round in 5 years. Not good enough. And just looking at it on face value, if you're a New Jersey Devil fan, you see Sheldon Keefe, you go, well, why is he such a great coach? Sure, he made the playoffs all 5 years. That'd be nice for our organization, but he's won jack squat. Lindy Ruff won a playoff round last year for us in 1 year. This Sheldon guy won 1 in 5. So just something to consider, for me anyway. But I think the Devils looked around and went, this is the best that we have available to hire, so we're gonna. A lot of retreads, a lot of older guys. You just had a Lindy Ruff in New Jersey, who's kind of that old, rough and tumble, we're doing it my way, not a player coach kind of person. And this happens for every team, every league does it. I think this will happen until the end of time. If you got a hard-nosed asshole on your bench, in your dugout, sideline, whatever it might be, you go to a guy who's a lot nicer the next time around. It's just the shift. Because the team hasn't played well, has rejected, in a sense, whatever you just had. Whether it was the asshole, nice guy, then you skate. We need a guy who can lead the troops. Toronto had Sheldon Keefe, who was player-friendly, players coach, can't really call it the players whether he wants to or he doesn't want to because organization says no. And he's liked by most of his guys. Well, now they go to Craig Berube, who it's not my way or the highway. It's just my way. This is how it's going to be. You're going to play my style. You're going to play the way I want to play the game of hockey. Or, well, that's it. You won't be here. Simple as that. I think that's the way Craig Berube handles his business. I think that's the way he approaches the game. So Lindy Ruff to Sheldon Keefe to Craig Berube. Both teams are proving this theory correct when it comes to having a head coach. But Sheldon Keefe's as good as anybody else. Craig Berube's as good as anybody else. You're only as good as your goaltender. Simple as that. Your systems can be phenomenal. Peter DeBoer's been in 5 of the last 6 conference finals. Impressive. But he's had Jake Ottinger. He's had Marc-Andre Fleury, Robin Lehner. He's coached good teams with elite talent, with solid goaltenders. It helps. But Sheldon Keefe, good hire from the Devils. And good for him, getting a 4-year deal. The Los Angeles Kings, this was rumored for at least a week now, but Kevin Weeks confirmed this yesterday, that the LA Kings named Jim Hiller their permanent head coach, gave him a multi-year contract extension. He relieved Todd McClellan of his duties back in mid-February. Team played well under him. They ultimately made the playoffs. Lost to the Edmonton Oilers in the first round for the 3rd straight year. But players complained about it at the end of the year. They were playing basically the trap system. 1 high, 2 back. Fiala hated it. Arvidsson. They have a lot of talented guys in LA that want to score goals that they probably felt under Todd McClellan, we never really got the opportunity to do it. And I understand why Todd McClellan did it, because that team, while talented, it has its flaws. It's an older team. Again, another team with shitty goaltending that can't really make big saves. I think LA's in a transition period here. Pierre-Luc Dubois was traded for this time last year, signed an extension right away. He was so awful in his first season that Rob Blake got questions at his year-end presser if he was going to be a buyout candidate. Sounds like he's not going to be, but an interesting anecdote nonetheless. But Jim Hiller, first-time head coach, gets an opportunity, over 50 years old, which I think is the sweet spot for a head coach. You're not too old, but you're not too young. You've had lots of experience in the game of hockey. And the Kings are in a weird team where they're semi-competitive, but they also have holes and they need a lot of help. So they need to figure out what direction they're going in. They're another team added to that list of Toronto, Carolina, New Jersey that need a goaltender. And there's only so many of them to go around. There's only so many guys that'll be made available. So I'm curious to see how that happens. What happens with these teams? Who eventually gets one? What team settles for, a Freddie Anderson instead of getting an elite guy? But Jim Hiller, permanent head coach of the Los Angeles Kings. Also, Mark Savard and the Calgary Flames mutually agreed to part ways last night. Mark Savard was an assistant coach under Craig Berube. Worked with him a long time. To me, this screams that Mark Savard will become an assistant coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Former NHLer, good player, was an assistant with St. Louis, then went to coach the Windsor Spitfires. He got the Windsor Spitfires to a Memorial Cup, which was last year, then left the OHL to come back to the NHL, become an assistant coach with the Calgary Flames. He knows Craig Berube. They work well together. They have a history. And good on Calgary for letting him go, knowing that he's probably going to go to Toronto. They didn't have to tear up that contract, but they did. And I think he's a smart, if I'm looking at the Leafs staff, Guy Boucher can't come back as my power play, the guy running my power play. It just can't happen, period. That power play was a disaster the last month of the season into the playoffs. Should be a hell of a lot better. If Mark Savard can come in, run that side of things, help on the power play, then Guy Boucher is, out on his ass, effectively. That power play was horrible. And for the players they have, it can't happen. But it looks like Mark Savard is going to be headed to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Finally, a trade in the NHL. The Tampa Bay Lightning acquired their former defenseman, two-time Stanley Cup champion, Ryan McDonagh, from Nashville for a 2025 second-round pick and a 2025 fourth from the Edmonton Oilers. Tampa also got a fourth and a seventh in the deal. So here's what happens here. Nashville's got $5.5 million in dead cap money this coming season because they bought out Matt Duchene last summer. They got $5.5 in dead cap this year, $6.5 in dead cap in 25-26. McDonagh makes $6.5 million. So freeing up money, McDonagh reportedly he had a full no move. He chose Nashville when he got traded from Tampa. He wanted to go back to Tampa. He was good for the Nashville Predators. Solid player, good person, a pro's pro. And for me, this helps Tampa a lot. Even at his advanced age, he can still play big minutes. He fits with Mikhail Sergachev. They played together for a long time. The biggest weakness on the Tampa Bay Lightning is their defense. This is an addition to the team. Reportedly, McDonough called Steven Stamkos after he was traded. Stamkos and Nikita Kucherov are on the ice together. Obviously, Steven Stamkos, a pending unrestricted free agent, but the fact that McDonough called him sure sounds like he expects him to be back. But I think Nashville's going to be aggressive. To me, this is not signaling, oh, we're giving up. Oh, nobody wants to be here. We're not a great team. We made the playoffs. This has to be done. You bought out Matt Duchene because you felt it was the best thing for your organization, and I agree. The fact that Nashville made the playoffs this year was an incredible story. And now they're in this weird holding pattern of, are we competitive? What should we do? Should we re-sign Saros? Should we trade Saros? Could we acquire a guy like Mitch Marner from the Toronto Maple Leafs or a Marty Necas from Carolina if we wanted to deal Saros? And they're tough decisions, tough calls. But they need talent. They know it. But even with McDonough leaving, they still have a pretty solid defense core. Forsberg, O'Reilly, good players. But I think for Barry Trotz, the draft's in a little over a month. Today is May 23rd. The NHL draft's on June 28th at the Sphere in Las Vegas. Knowing all of that, you have a little over a month to figure out what you want to do and what position you want to go in with your franchise moving forward. You bought out Matt Duchene not because he couldn't play anymore, but because that contract was so big and you're moving in a new direction. And Duchene has worked out as a member of the Dallas Stars. He's been awesome. So I think for Nashville, they got to go, are we kind of rebuilding, retooling, finding more talent? Or do we have a group here that can compete and move forward? And getting a guy like Mitch Marner would signal, hey, we're still competitive here. We have a team that can win. I think either path is not horrible for the Nashville Predators. They could compete and make the playoffs again. Because the Western Conference is an interesting wasteland. You have a lot of great teams at the top and a lot of teams towards the bottom that just aren't very good. You know, Anaheim, San Jose, St. Louis, Minnesota. They all have this kind of identity crisis and trying to figure out who we are as a team and what is our goal, what is our mission statement moving forward here. Tampa's got big decisions to make. What do we do with Steven Stamkos? Can we afford him? How much money is he looking for? Are we keeping all of our core forwards? The guys that won us a Stanley Cup, can that still work? Can we go on another deep run after a couple years of early round playoff failure? All decisions that Julien Brisebois has to make, because you look at it, Kucherov signed, Point signed, Vasilevsky signed, Sergachev signed, Cirelli signed. Hedman a year away from being an unrestricted free agent. But the core of your team is locked in to pretty good contracts, I might add, because you're in Tampa and there's no state income tax. So a $0.9 million deal would be a $0.12 million deal somewhere else. A Kucherov 9.5 would be Kucherov 14 if he was playing in Toronto. So they have ways that they can remain competitive, remain elite, play with the Torontos, with the Floridas, with the Bostons of the world. But I think this trade made sense for both teams. Both teams have decisions to make. Both were losers in the first round. Both have to figure out what direction are we going in the next number of years. What's our statement to our franchise, to our fans, on where we're going here? I don't think Tampa would tank, would sell off, but if they were going to, it's an easier sell. Because you tell your franchise, we were in 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. We won 2 Stanley Cups. We thank you all for showing up, being there, and you helped us turn us into one of the best little hockey markets. Tampa's now a hotbed for hockey. They love us. We love you. Let's keep it going. We'll be competitive again soon. Look at the Rangers. It doesn't take that long if you have competent people running the show. But I think for this signals to me for Tampa, they want to keep themselves competitive. They can look at Boston and go, hey, they're not going to be back. Which I don't disagree. Sure, they made the playoffs this year. Incredible run. What a season. But they're not all that good. They don't have a whole lot of talent. Marchand's a year older. They're going to lose a goalie. What are the Boston Bruins? Toronto just fired a coach. Toronto might have to trade Mitch Marner. Who's going to play in goal for them? Joseph Wall making his 3 straight starts, then injured in the 4th. So, all kinds of opportunities for Tampa, I think, if you look up and go, hey, we at least have stability over here. We know what we're doing. Coop's coming back. No hard decision there. But that's kind of the NHL update for you. Still lots happening, even while the conference finals. You also got the World Hockey Championships over in Prague and Ostrava. It's quarterfinal Thursday. Canada's about to play Slovakia in a number of minutes. They had their ups and downs during the preliminary round. Austria took them to overtime, but towards the tail end, they beat a very game Switzerland. They beat the Finns. They beat the Czechs in the last game of the preliminary round in overtime. Dylan Cousins has 8 goals in the tournament. Connor Bedard, to me, has been banged up. He's not playing a whole lot. But Slovakia, they got, Hlavek's been great in net. They had some NHL talent go over and play with, but Martin Pospisil has been really interesting to watch in the tournament. He got banged up the last game. Sounds like he's going to be limited or might not even play today for the Slovaks. I got Canada winning that game, advancing to the semifinal. Yes, Switzerland playing Germany. Should be a tight game. They played last year. The Germans won that, beat the Swiss, kind of upset them in the quarterfinals. Switzerland, the fact that they're the 3 seed kind of tells you about that group. Switzerland's a good team. You look at Nico Hischier being over there, Roman Josi being over there, Nito Niederreiter. They got a team full of damn good hockey players. And to me, they're one of the more impressive teams. I think Switzerland will get past Germany today and advance to the semifinal. United States, Czechia. Czechia, you got that home crowd, which is an X factor. Marty Necas goes over. David Pastrnak goes over. They had a pretty deep team already, not to mention you mix that with Czech nationals like Roman Chervenka, who's the captain, who's had a hell of a tournament so far. United States, rough start, but they found their game. They're scoring goals in bunches. Brady Tkachuk, Shane Pinto, both having really good tournaments. Cole Caulfield starting to find his game a little bit. I think if you look at the tournament leaders, the United States of all the top guys in points, like they're just producing at this point. If you look at statistics, Matthew Boldy has the most points in the tournament with 14, followed by Brady Tkachuk, followed by Johnny Gaudreau. Then you have Cervenka, Carlson. So you got the top three guys. Shane Pinto's also in the top 10. Dylan Cousins leads for Canada with 10 points in 7 games for him. Czechs are a good team. They've gotten reinforcements. I like the home crowd aspect, but I think the United States gets by them today. They're just a better team overall. And Finland, Sweden, bitter rivalry, but Sweden's the best team in the tournament. Erik Karlsson, Victor Hedman playing together on a defensive pairing. They find ways to score goals. They do have Lucas Raymond, good tournament. Adrian Kempe, Burakovsky, Fabian Zetterlund's had a good tournament. The Detroit Red Wings pick. Joel Eriksson Ek, Dahlin, Jonas Brodin. They're just a loaded group. They got a really bunch of good players to come over and play for them. So the Finns struggle to score goals. Sweden doesn't. Sweden's got pretty good goaltending, so I got Sweden winning today. So I got the Final Four being Canada, Switzerland, the United States, and Sweden at the World Hockey Championships over in Prague and Ostrava. Let's talk baseball for a minute. Toronto Blue Jays win a series against the Chicago White Sox. If you have that optimism, then you look at the Orioles, who get swept in a series for the first time since May of 2022. So a 2-year run. Congrats to them. They get swept by the Cardinals. And you look up, and the Yankees have lost 2 of the first 3 in their series to the red-hot Seattle Mariners. And you go, hey, we're starting to find our game. Well, all that being said, the Blue Jays remain 4 games under 500. They remain 10.5 back of the New York Yankees, 7.5 back of the Baltimore Orioles for second place. And they had their best offensive production night of the season last night. But again, you're playing against the White Sox, who stink. So, grain of salt time. Not to mention the Red Sox are 2 games above 500. They just swept the Rays, where the Rays nearly swept you this past weekend. The Blue Jays, if you're a Blue Jays fan, I think you must hate baseball because they're such a frustrating, and they're not a fun team to watch at all. Baseball is much more competitive, much more entertaining than it was in previous years, as we've discussed here on this podcast. But if you're looking for singles, a bunt, a smart play, try to steal a base, that's not the Blue Jays. It's bad at bats, swing for a home run, which they rarely hit because they're tied for 26th in the majors in home runs. That's what you're going to get. And it's just boring and it's predictable. But here's why Ross Atkins met with the media last Saturday. He met with the media so he could talk to them for 20 minutes, 10:30 on a Saturday, because of their upcoming schedule. They had the Rays, who are a sub-500 team. They lost 2 or 3 of the Rays. Then they get the White Sox. The White Sox stink. The White Sox are currently 15-35, which that's 20 games under 500 if you need the quick math. Now the Blue Jays head tonight to Detroit, Michigan to play the Tigers, who are 23-26. That's 3 games below 500. They are a game better than the Blue Jays. So they're basically the same team, but you look at the Tigers roster, you look at the Blue Jays roster, you go, okay, Tigers stink. We should be able to do well playing against the Tigers, and they normally do. Then you get the White Sox again. Last place, 15 wins. We just went through them. So you get the White Sox. Then you get the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are 23-27. That's 4 games below 500, just like the Blue Jays, and they stink. Other than Paul Skeens, who's awesome, who's pitching this afternoon against San Francisco, who's 1-0, 2.70 ERA in his first 2 starts, you look at the Pirates, Brian Reynolds, that's impressive. O'Neal Cruz has got great exit velocity, but that exit velocity has turned it, into 7 homers, 11 doubles on the season, 19 RBIs. That's threatening. Connor Joe, Andrew McCutchen, still a Pirate, still batting leadoff. Cabrian Hayes, Jake Sawinski, Rowdy Tellez, remember him, former Blue Jay? He's batting a $181. Boy, that'll make you shake. Starting pitcher other than Skeens, as we said, not very good. Aroldis Chapman, 0-3, 4.60 ERA in the bullpen. So, all that being said, you're playing a hunk of crap over the next 2 weeks. And you know it. You have the Orioles for 4 after this next hunk of crap. Then you get the Athletics after that. So, you look at that and go, hey, if we are going to go on a run here, it's going to be right now because of our opponents and the fact that none of them are very good. And maybe Vladdy's been on a bit of a tear as of late. Maybe Bichette will finally wake up after a month and a half and we can play some good baseball. Maybe that'll happen for us. The Orioles are skidding a little bit. Running into some tough opponents, playing some tough games, not winning that much. Yankees are better than I thought they'd be. Big surprise to be May 23rd and to see the Yankees 34-17. Impressive stuff. Juan Soto, he wants some money. 313, 13 homers, 40 ribbies. He's the favorite currently on FanDuel Sportsbook to win the American League MVP. Aaron Judge only batting .268, but the power's there. 14 homers. Doing his thing. This team's getting good pitching, even without Garrett Cole. And no real reports on him yet, but it sounds like he might return this year. But then again, you never know. He might need Tommy John. But credit to them, the Guardians, 33-17. You look at the American League Central, the Twins made the playoffs the last number of years. The Twins won a playoff game for the first time in a long time last year. They're 3 games above 500 on May 23rd. They trail the Guardians by 6.5 games. They trail the Royals by 5.5 games. Royals might be my favorite team in baseball. I've loved watching the Kansas City Royals. They're fun. They get a blend of everything. Bobby Witt Jr. is just a flat-out stud. I love him. Still have old Perez, the catcher. Salvador Perez, who still gets it done every time. Furman, the catcher. Blanco, Adam Frazier. They can hit home runs. They can defend. They'll throw down a bunt to make something happen, unlike most teams in this stupid league. You see Kansas City, they're trailing the Guardians They swept the Mets for the first time ever in their franchise's history. Francisco Lindor quietly, terrible. Terrible season. Alonso, terrible for the Mets. But you look at the Guardians, Jimenez, pretty good. Jose Ramirez, pretty good. Fry, the first baseman, pretty good. Find ways to win. Not great average, but they hit a ton of home runs. They get good pitching performances. Good bullpen. Credit to the Guardians for doing that. Guardians in first place. Seattle in first place over Texas. Houston starting to rally. They're 6 games below 500, but they're playing better as of late. And I'm not counting them out in the race in the American League West. I'll tell you that for sure. National League, this has got to burn. Brewers are in first place. Only by a game and a half over the Cubs. But the Cubs are spending a lot more money on players and the manager. You know who their manager is? Craig Counsell. You know where he left? Oh, yeah. He left the Milwaukee Brewers. Cubs are a good team. Just had a series against the Braves. Braves are good. But I don't think that the old folks in Wrigley expected at this point in the season for the Brewers to be ahead of them. It's a long way to go. It's a long season. June, July, August, September. 4 months and a week. But hey, something's got to be done here. We've got to start playing better baseball. Got to beat the Brewers when we play them. To be pressure internally on that. Dodgers 33-19, 7 games up on the Padres, 8 on the Diamondbacks, 8 on the San Francisco Giants. This division's over. Won't be competitive. The Dodgers are hell of a club. Lost last night, but overall, they're just a murderer's row of a team. Mookie Betts batting .330. Shohei Ohtani batting .354 with 13 homers, 40 ribbies. Teoscar Hernandez got 11 homers. Batting, let's see what he's batting this season. .246, but still it works. Freddie Freeman, .286. Will Smith, .301. Max Muncy, horrible average, but he's kind of the new just power hitter, hit homers. Gavin Lux, Miguel Rojas, batting .261. They got guys towards the bottom. Chris Taylor, horrible. Austin Barnes, Hayward. But they're winning. Glass now, .309 ERA. Yamamoto, .317. Stone, .360. James Paxton, .284. Ryan Yarbrough, .312. Viscia, .123. They're getting good pitching production. We haven't even seen the former Cy Young winner get back in there. Clayton Kershaw will be back this summer as well. So they got reinforcements coming. They're a good team. They maybe will add at the deadline. I'm sure they will because they think they can win correctly. Then you also have the Phillies, who are 6 games up on the Braves in May. 36-14. Best team in baseball. Have won their first 2 games of their series against the Texas Rangers. 5-2 and 11-4. You look at them over the month of May. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 16 wins out of a possible 19 games in the month of May. They are locked and loaded. The Braves haven't even played. The Braves are 10 games above 500, and they're 6 games back out of first. Still a long way to go. They still play each other a ton, so that helps both sides. The next time they meet, July 5th, for a 3-game weekend series in Atlanta. But then towards the tail end of the season, they play twice in August, once in September. So some big series down the stretch for these two teams. Two really good clubs, but credit to the Phillies. Competitive for a long time, but they've never won their own division. Put yourself in the best position to succeed, win your division, avoid the wild card round, and that's what they're aiming to do. That's kind of the MLB Roundup. Lots happening. Breaking news as we are chatting here. The Cleveland Cavaliers have fired coach J.B. Bickerstaff. Bickerstaff led Cavs to conference semifinals and won 99 regular season games in the past 2 years. But change comes with hope of advancing deeper into the playoffs. Interesting. Yeah, the fact that they went that far, I thought was impressive. You look at the Lakers' jobs available. Now Cleveland, there are some good jobs available out there for guys to look at. Phoenix has already been filled. I think you look at the team and sometimes defensively picking the right guys to be on the floor. You can have some gripe with that if you were ownership. But I thought he made that team competitive. I thought he gave them an identity. I mean, after the LeBron eras, it was really nothing about the team that you liked. Getting this team to the second round, I mean, looking at that team expecting to beat the Celtics without Donovan Mitchell for 2 of the 5 games, I don't know what you're hoping there. Maybe it's frustration about the Orlando series, the fact that it went 7. I'd understand that. Shouldn't have went 7. But also, they want to advance deeper, so is Donovan Mitchell going to stay put? Are you trading him this summer? Are you trading Darius Garland? I don't think you can keep both Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. So you have to make a decision on those two guys. Cleveland's a team that does have talent. They just need to decide how to put all that talent together and see if it can work, see if it can gel. But interesting, I did not expect to see that. I expected him to have another year as head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Not to mention, it's been a minute since the Cavaliers have been eliminated. It's been over a week at this point. Dallas Mavericks beat the Timberwolves last night. Impressive 69 points combined from Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Really won them the game, not to mention Derek Lively off the bench was fantastic. Great rebounds, makes his shots, great defense, 3 blocks. Many had their moments, but Anthony Edwards' shot hasn't been going down for him. That's a problem. They need him at his best if they're going to win this series, because Dallas is game. And Dallas was in the conference finals a couple years ago. So credit to the 2 alphas on Dallas for making it happen. Anthony Towns, Edwards both didn't play well. Jaden McDaniels was awesome. Naz Reid off the bench. But I think for Minnesota, they're a tad bit deeper. If those 2 guys find their game and they're playing up to that standard, they should be able to compete with anybody. Pacers threw away game 1 to the Celtics. They had it. They gave it away late. Jaylen Brown with a miracle 3 from the corner. So Celtics win game 1. Game 2 at the Garden tonight. After you get that close, I just think your mentality is kind of sunk. I think the Celtics crushed the Pacers tonight by 10 plus. They're just better. Pacers had their chance, and they blew it. But that's tonight. You got Dallas, Edmonton, game 1 tonight as well. French Open kicks off on Sunday in Paris. Confirmed this morning, Rafael Nadal will be playing. So that's good news for the event. We're going to talk about the French Open tomorrow on the program, about the draw, about Rafa. Sounds like this is the last year for him at Roland Garros. So we're going to react to the games. We're going to talk about the French Open. We're going to talk about the Charles Schwab Classic, aka the Colonial, going on in Texas, and get you ready and previewed for the weekend. Hope you all have a great Thursday. Thanks for hanging with me today. We'll talk to you soon. I'm Noah Warren. This is To The Point.